Alright, so we are going to be continuing with arcs, angles, and algebra. This is the page that we actually worked on the other day, so I'm going to go ahead and work through the remaining problems on the page. So, let's look at number 5 here. We're going to solve for x, and they gave us this expression here for the angle. They also gave us the two arcs. They went ahead and gave it to us off the bat. So the little one is 65, and the big one is 161. Now remember, whenever you're trying to solve for x in this case, the angle, so let's do this, the measure of the angle is going to be equal to 1/2 times the big arc minus the small arc. It's always going to be the case. So I'm going to go ahead and do 7x minus 1 equals 1/2 times, and then 161 minus 65. So now let's solve it. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep 7x minus 1 as is, and then it's still equal to 1/2. 161 minus 65 is 96. And then 96 divided by 2, or times 1/2, is going to be 48. We still have 7x minus 1 over here. I'm going to go ahead and add the 1 to both sides, and we're going to get 49 over here. And then lastly, divide by 7, and x is going to be equal to 7. 49 divided by 7 is 7. Now we're going to look at number 6. So once again, they gave us an expression for the angle, and they gave us the little arc, but I don't have the measure of the bigger arc, which I'm going to go ahead and put in green. What they did was they gave us this arc over here, 74 degrees. What we can do is add these two together, subtract it from 360, and that'll tell us what the green arc is going to be. So over here in green, I'm going to have 360 minus, and then 74 plus 86. Whenever you do that, you're going to end up getting 200. So the green arc is going to be 200 degrees. So now we have the big arc and the little arc that we need to solve for x. So over here, I'm going to have 4x plus 13 equals 1/2. The bigger arc is 200, so we're going to have 200 minus the smaller arc, which is 86. So same thing as the last problem, just bring down 4x plus 13. It's still going to be equal to 1/2. And then 200 minus 86 is going to be 114. And then 114 divided by 2, or multiplied by 1/2, is going to be 57. That didn't work. 57. We still have 4x plus 13. And now just combine like terms and solve for x. 4x is going to be equal to 44. Divide both sides by 4, and x is equal to 11. Alright, so now before we tackle number 11, let's just kind of plug everything in. So they tell us that NJ is going to be equal to 170 degrees, so that would be this arc, NJ, is 170. MK is 5x plus 8, so this is MK, and it's going to be 5x plus 8. Change colors. And then the angle MLK, which is right here, is going to be 4x plus 3. And we're actually going to solve for the angle MLK. But first, I need to know what x is. So, just like we've been doing in all of the previous problems, let's set up our equation. So our angle, 4x plus 3, is going to be equal to 1/2. And then the larger arc minus the smaller arc. So the bigger arc is 170. And then the smaller arc, I'm going to go ahead and put this in parentheses so we don't mess up our signs. So we're going to have an extra set of parentheses, 5x plus 8, close parentheses again. So now we got a lot of algebra to do. So bring down 4x plus 3 equals 1/2. Haven't done anything with 170 yet because I need to distribute that negative. So now we have negative 5x and negative 8, close parentheses. Keep going, because now we're going to have 4x plus 3 equals a half. And then 170 minus 8, that is going to be 162. Whoops. 162 minus 5x. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is notice that this 1/2 here isn't going to multiply into the negative 5 easily. So what I'm actually going to do now is just go ahead and multiply the whole equation by 2. Therefore, it's going to get rid of the 1/2 on this side, and then I'm going to multiply 4x plus 3 by 2. So now I'm going to be working with 8x plus 6, and then that is going to be equal to 162 minus 5x. So now same thing, combine all your like terms. So now I have 13x, and then that is going to be equal to 156 when you subtract. And then divide by 13, and your x is going to be equal to 12. But we're not done yet, because now we have to take this 12 and plug it in to the 4x plus 3. So our final answer is going to be 4 times 12 plus 3, and then when you solve for that, you're going to get 51 degrees. That's our final answer. Now we're looking at number 12 here. So once again, let's plug everything in. So DA is going to be that arc right there. DB is this arc down here. And then they give us the angle DCB, which is right here. That's going to be 5x plus 11. And we actually need to find the measure of the arc DA. So underline that in blue once again. So now let's try to figure this out. Because they gave us a measure for the big arc, they gave us a measure for the smaller arc, and a measure for the angle. But again, we don't know what x is, so we need to solve for that before we can find the actual measure of dA. So let's plug everything in, or into an equation. So we have 5x plus 11, that's my angle, and it's still going to be equal to 1/2 times the bigger arc minus the smaller arc. The bigger arc is dA, so that's going to be 23x minus 14, and then minus again arc dB. So once again, parentheses, 9x minus 4, close parentheses, close parentheses. Now let's start working with this equation here. We got a lot to do. So first thing you want to do, I want to distribute that negative. So bring everything down. We have 5x plus 11 equals 1/2. And I still want to keep my 23x minus 14. We haven't done anything with that yet. And now I'm going to have minus 9x plus 4, close parentheses. So now I want to combine all my like terms here in the parentheses. So equals 1/2. 23 minus 9, that's going to get me, it's going to get me a 14x, and a negative 14 plus 4, that's going to get me a negative 10. And once again, 5x plus 11. Now, you can go ahead and multiply this 1/2 to everything in here, since those are all even numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that instead of multiplying the whole thing by 2, since it'll actually be easier. So 5x plus 11 is now going to be equal to 7x minus 5, since 14 and 10 are both divisible by 2. Combine your like terms. Over here, I'm going to get 2x, add 5, and you're going to get, not 17, you're going to get 16, sorry about that. And then divide both sides by 2, and you're going to get x is equal to 8. So now, we're not done. We found our x. We need to plug it in to dA up here. So Here, let me put a little squiggly line here. We're going to have 23 times 8 minus 14. Plug that into your calculator, and you are going to get 170 degrees as the final answer. Alright, last but not least, we have number 13 here. So, I'm going to color code again, because it's just easier that way. They tell us that arc QTS, which is going to be this big arc right here, arc QTS is 16x plus 23. They also tell us that arc QS, which is fiddle right there, and that's going to be 7x plus 15, and then, so that is also going to be underlined in green, and then angle QRS is right here. And we need to find the measure of arc QTS. So once again, we need to find the measure of the blue arc. So this is actually going to be set up almost exactly the same as the last problem. So we got angle QRS, which is 5x minus 3 equals 1/2. And then the larger arc minus the smaller arc, so 16x plus 23 minus, and then put the smaller arc in its own parentheses. So 7x plus 15, close parentheses, close parentheses. And now we're going to figure this out same way as the last problem. So bring down 5x minus 3 equals 1/2. And be sure you distribute that negative, because now you're going to have 16x plus 23 minus 7x, and then minus 15. So now we're working with 5x minus 3 equals 1/2, and then combine like terms, 7x minus 7, that's going to be 9x, and then 23 minus 15 is going to be negative. Actually, it's going to be positive 8. Alright? Now, unfortunately for this problem, 1/2 is not going to multiply into that 9, not evenly at least. So we can't do what we did in the last problem where we went ahead and just multiplied the right side by 1/2. So I'm going to do again where I multiply the whole thing by 2, and then that'll get rid of the half, and then we need to multiply by 2 over here. So now we're going to be having 10x minus 6 equals 9x plus 8. Now let's solve for x here. So now, actually 10 minus 9 is going to give me 1x, add 6 to both sides, and I'm going to get x is equal to 14. So now, take the 14 right here and plug it into QTS, and we will be done. So 16 times 14 plus 23, you type that in your calculator, and you're going to get 247 degrees. Final answer.